This podcast may contain explicit language. If you think Mick Jagger will still be out there trying to be a rock star at age 50, then you are sadly mistaken. Almost Famous is next.
Lock the gate!
Welcome to the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, the show that uses a unique grading style to redefine what the greatest movies are. I'm Tom Duncan, and unfortunately, for the first time in 4 years, Dana had to call in sick. So it is me and our guest for the evening, which I will introduce here in a second. But tonight for our 278th episode, we discuss Almost Famous from 2000, celebrating its 25th anniversary, written and directed by Cameron Crowe, cinematography by John Toll, music by Nancy Wilson, starring Billy Crudup as Russell Hammond, Frances McDormand as Elaine Miller, Kate Hudson as Penny Lane or Lady Goodman, Jason Lee as Jeff Beebe, Patrick Fugit as William Miller, also Michael Angerano, I believe it's pronounced, as Young William, Anna Paquin as Palexia Aphrodisia, Fairuza Balk as Sapphire, Noah Taylor as Dick Roswell, Philip Seymour Hoffman as Lester Bangs, Zoe Deschanel as Anita Miller, Jimmy Fallon as Dennis Hope, Bijou Phillips as Estrella Starr, Terry Chen as Ben Fong Torres, Jay Baruchel as Vic Munoz, and Rainn Wilson as David Felton. Of course, I am not going to do this podcast solo, so we bring in our celebrity guest for the evening, now on for his 5th time, and that means it's hat time. Please welcome back Jesse Sertle.
Once again, applause is not needed there. You can keep the applause down. I'm not worth the applause, but thank you for it. Just when is my gold jacket? When's that? I don't even know when I'm going to get the gold jacket. I know I'm at the hat. I'm going for the gold.
Okay, so t-shirt is at 10. 15, I think we've decided on polo shirts. At least that's the last I remember or know of. Partially because my mother got herself a polo shirt at 10 because she didn't want to wear the t-shirts, even though I really like the t-shirts. They're really nice. But that being said, you will be getting your hat very, very soon. And the gold jacket will be like 50 appearances. Let's say that. If you get to 50 appearances on this show, you can have a gold jacket.
Hold you to it.
It may be blue and gold, but yeah, it'll work.
Have a gold seam in it. Something gold in there.
Oh yeah, we'll line it with some extra accoutrement, if you will. So, we are here to discuss Almost Famous, a movie I had not seen. I specifically put it on the schedule because it's another one of these that I hadn't seen. I'd kind of roughly heard about, I don't know, a couple of dozen times, but it was never one that I'm like, I really need to see that. So this is kind of one of those where I'm stretching myself a little bit, particularly because, and I think this is the first Cameron Crowe film we're discussing on this show, but for anybody that knows me personally, I think Jerry Maguire is grossly overrated. I am not a big fan of Cameron Crowe, just period. His first writing credit was for Fast Times at Ridgemont High, which I don't care for. I have not seen Say Anything or really a whole lot of his stuff, but I tried to go into this movie with an open mind. And I will say, I fucking loved this. This was awesome. I was not expecting this to be as good or to like this as much as I did, given my history with Cameron Crowe. But wow, I loved this. I mean, to me, it was kind of like a total vibes movie, and you just kind of wanted to live in this universe and travel with them wherever they wanted to take you.
I would totally agree with that. To help you with the Jerry Maguire, there's also another person who hates Jerry Maguire as well. Patton Oswalt, a brother, I believe, absolutely detests that movie. There's a long joke about that. If you ever want to look into it, it's pretty funny. But Like I said, I've seen this movie.
So hold on. When you say Patton Oswalt's brother,
Yes.
do you mean his actual brother, or are you referring to Dana? Because Dana has gotten so many comments. It's a running joke on this show, whether you know it or not. Because I don't think you listen to it regularly, but it's been a running gag for the better part of 6 months that people will come up to Dana either in person or on YouTube or whatever and say he looks like Patton Oswalt. So this is actually Patton Oswalt's brother and not...
No, it's actually Patton Oswalt. It is a joke where they go and see it on Christmas. Like, Patton was really into it. He got the last lines. Like, I forgot what the last line says. You had me a hello or something like that.
Yeah, and you complete me.
His brother got up in the theater and just started yelling obscenities at the screen. So I'm like, oh, okay, so you might be him. But I don't know. But my history, like I said, I've seen this movie. Like, I didn't see it in theaters. I did see it with my family in our living room.
Okay.
Right after it came out, because I know there was a lot of the theatrical stuff, the release, whatever, teasers, things like that. And the one scene, the Golden God scene, was something that my mom was just absolutely in love with.
Okay.
And could not. That's the reason why we wanted to watch that scene, and it was fantastic. Now, my family, they've more than likely probably seen it maybe 5 times since then. I've seen it maybe probably 100 plus times. Reason why I love the movie. I love, like I said, same thing as you. I love the vibe. I feel like I'm transfused to a world that's very real, and just kind of want to live with those people and go on the journey and kind of wonder, like, what's the 1974 tour like? Because that's the ending, is the 1974 tour. But the other thing that kind of get to me is, like, it seemed like HBO was in absolute love with this film because they had it playing constantly on the loop. And when you're bored and don't have anything to do in a small town, which I was at, and you had HBO, you throw HBO on, and it's like, oh, it's playing. Oh, Almost Famous. Watch it again. Like, you watch a couple times in a weekend. Whatever. You didn't have anything else to do, that's what I did.
So you have a long history with this, then?
Yes. And then, yeah, it had a different, weirder history, where, like, some of the quotes in it, because my family would quote it. Like I said, They saw it maybe 5 times, so, like, the don't take drugs, like, morphed into don't do drugs. And then when I watched it again this time, 'cause I hadn't watched it in a couple of years, I watched it again this time and said, don't take drugs. I kept thinking, like, oh my God, we've been saying it wrong for 20 years. Like, because I was paying more attention. I'm like, we can't believe we're saying this stupid quote the wrong way for 20 years. So I'm going to have to start correcting my family because they still say it.
Well, I mean, culture is littered with misquoted movie lines.
Well, we're usually pretty good at the quoting a line that we like. It's just this one particular line. I can't believe we made this mistake for 20 years. Or even 25 years. Like, came out in 99, right? 2000. 25 years. I was such a kid then.
I think it has more to do with the context and people just kind of like paraphrasing instead of direct quoting. And then some people will get annoyed that it's not the direct quote. Like, Luke, I am your father. It's not actually Luke, I'm your father. But in order for that to make sense, you have to put the Luke in there. Because if otherwise you just said, no, I am your father, it doesn't really make as much sense to people. Especially people who aren't huge Star Wars nerds.
Me, not at all.
Yeah, exactly. So a little bit of background for the movie itself here. Almost Famous was released on September 22nd, 2000. So it will be celebrating its 25th anniversary here in a couple of weeks. On a budget of $60 million, the film struggled to post $47.4 million during its theatrical run, finishing the year at number 76 worldwide. Nevertheless, it received high critical praise at the time and was nominated for 4 Oscars: Best Supporting Actress for Kate Hudson and Frances McDormand, and Film Editing, winning for Best Original Screenplay for Cameron Crowe. The Almost Famous soundtrack album was awarded the 2001 Grammy Award for Best Compilation Soundtrack Album for a Motion Picture, Television, or Other Visual Media. That is a mouthful. In 2021, Rolling Stone published the article Stillwater Runs Deep by William Miller, backdated to August 30th, 1973. The film has recently been adapted into a Broadway musical by Cameron Crowe that debuted in 2022. Almost Famous currently holds a 91% among critics on Rotten Tomatoes, a 90 score on Metacritic, and a 4.1 out of 5 on Letterboxd. So, Why does America love rock stars?
What do you think on that subject? I have a particular idea. I just want to hear what you think first.
I think there's a fascination, much in the same way we're obsessed with like movie stars and sports celebrities, that there's hero worship in it. I think we've developed a celebrity culture that thinks they're fascinating people, like these tortured artists. And so that's why we have so many biopics of musicians, especially recently, that we think they're all these tortured geniuses and they're just people. I don't quite buy into that. And I know that music is very personal to people in a way that even movies is not, unless you're like a deep cinephile. But music is like a weird soundtrack to people's lives. I remember this song and when it was playing, and I was dating my now wife, and people describe that all the time. And so because of that and how central some of these figures are, they want to assign them additional meaning, I think, to what these songs mean to them personally, that in my opinion isn't quite always there. But also there's the lifestyle. We obsess over sex, drugs, and rock and roll. Rock and roll stars can screw whomever they want. They can take drugs as long as they want because, I mean, heavens knows Mick Jagger and all of those old British rock stars that look jagged and whatever else are still surviving on the preservatives of what was like cocaine and acid and every other drug that you could think of during the 70s. It apparently didn't ruin their lives unless you were one of the drummers, because all of those guys passed away. But regardless, I just think there's a little bit of an obsession to connect the personal meaning and this lifestyle with this hero worship and tortured genius angle. So maybe it's this triangular feat between all of those things and why we have such a fascination with these people.
You went so deep.
Well, what did you expect?
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was wondering. That's how deep you would go. But mine is just the lifestyle. I mean, what people know when we think of the lifestyle, we think of it, it's so different, so far beyond. It's just, you kind of said that word, the hero worship. You're like, you want to believe that a rock star, like all they are doing in their life is just writing music all day, playing music, and partying all night. That's what they're doing. And that's what you like to see. And then you don't realize the mundaneness of their lives. That's what I liked about this movie, is that you see the mundane actions of life of riding a bus all day. Who would want to do that? I wouldn't want to do that, but you have to get to the next gig. How are you going to get there? You got to take some sort of transportation, and it's super, super boring.
Well, but I guess part of what this movie deals with is, you mentioned the mundane aspects of the rock star lifestyle, and yet it glamorizes a lot of the behind the scenes stuff, and it also makes them clearly appear to be delusional, because they're like, we're for the fans and we're doing this for these people out there and we want to connect with them and we want to quote unquote get them off. And yet it's always self-serving in every way, shape, and form. They are always in it for whatever selfish purpose they have concocted for themselves. Whether they want to be altruistic outwardly, they're full of shit.
Well, that's everybody in the whole film. Everyone's delusional.
Is William really delusional, though?
I
think he's naive, but I wouldn't say he's delusional.
I think he's thinking he's trying to be part of that. I think he's the observer. He's the first one to kind of call everybody on their bullshit.
Yeah. And that's why I say I think he's more naive because of his youth than it is necessarily him being delusional.
I still think he looks at it as the audience is looking at it, where he's kind of worshiping in them, and then he's learning it throughout the movie. That these guys aren't the greatest people on the planet, and they got their issues. He still likes them at the end of the day, but they got their issues. He's not like that guy, I can't remember the kid, the Led Zeppelin kid, who can tell he's kind of like that in the beginning, but as you can see, as he interacts with them, he becomes more and more jaded by that, about that particular lifestyle.
I think it's the natural progression of our protagonist to go on this journey, and you're enticed by the lifestyle. You aren't so willing to divorce yourself of it. So I don't think it is tragic in the way that he goes about this, because at the end of the day, he does have an appreciation for all of his experience, but I think he's able to gain some objectivity in a way that he certainly wasn't when he started.
Yeah. I guess the only delusion I could see is him thinking that he's going to be a great rock writer.
Mm.
And you can see that at the end, that it's kind of not what he wants to do anymore.
But I mean, he's also dreaming big, and his mother has clearly enabled him to think that I can be anything I want to be, and he's somewhat of a child prodigy if he's graduating high school at 15.
You got to put a quotes around. He can be anything he wants to be as long as he's a lawyer at the end of the day.
Well, that's fair. Okay. All right, let's get our plot summary in here. This is going to be odd because I'm delivering it for the first time in like 3, maybe 4 years. So, Almost Famous is a coming-of-age story about music, identity, and growing up in the 1970s. The film follows William Miller, a 15-year-old aspiring music journalist who gets the chance of a lifetime when Rolling Stone magazine hires him to cover an up-and-coming rock band called Stillwater. William joins the band on tour where he experiences the excitement and chaos of life on the road. Along the way, he befriends Penny Lane, a free-spirited groupie who hides her own heartbreak behind her love for the music. As William tries to balance his journalistic duties with his feelings of friendship and loyalty, he struggles with the blurred lines between truth and storytelling. At its core, Almost Famous is about the power of music to shape lives, the messy process of growing up, and learning about who you are when surrounded by fame, love, and disappointment. So I pose the question to you, what is this movie about?
I think we kind of all went over. We have essentially someone who is outside of the world, entering in it and finding out that that particular world is not as grand as it is in his head. Because he's got a very particular thought process when you go over like the kind of cutscene where it shows him writing all the names of all the bands. You can see that he's built up a particular thought process or a particular view of what the life is. His first experience with it is almost like that, where he's at the party. Like, I think that's what he's thinking it was. And then as you slowly go throughout the movie, you're realizing that, yeah, there's a perception of what they are, and then there's reality. And I think that's what the movie is trying to hit at, that there's an actual reality to these people.
Well, I think it's similar to me. Never meet your heroes is the common catchphrase. And I think in a way that's what this movie to me has always been about. It's he heroizes all of these people because they're musicians. They're these abstract concept of people that he holds dearly. And I think it goes back to our conversation of why are we obsessed with Rockstars? He has some of the same feelings, but the more time you spend with these people, the more you see their flaws, their foibles, all of the things that make them actually human. And so it kind of takes the shine off of all of that to try and give you a more rounded picture. And he becomes less naive. Although to think that a 15-year-old, and I don't know how old Penny Lane is, but you got to imagine she's probably in her early 20s at least, that he could be with her at 15. That's a little delusional. I'll grant you that one. But he's still kind of got this lesson in growing up in a very short period of time. Because I want to say, they're gone for a couple of months?
It doesn't feel like that.
I know this movie is only 2 hours, so it goes through it quickly, but
like, I think of all the dates they went to. I mean, I feel like it was only a couple of weeks. It didn't feel like a couple of months. Maybe it was.
Well, how long do you think it takes to drive from Greenville to wherever the fuck? And then they're in Boston, then they're in New York, then they're flying around.
Well,
I mean, it's at least a good month, if not 6 weeks.
Yeah, I wouldn't say I would say more like the 6 week range, but I don't know. It's very hard to tell because a lot of their time they're in California. And there's not many seasons in California. And then when they actually do to go to Cleveland, I mean, it's nice for some odd reason. They go to the nice time of Cleveland. Whoever wants to go there. But you got to see Bowie.
Yeah, well, that's true.
Get your point though. of what it's about. And I would agree with you like that. Don't meet your heroes. That's the big thing. Or at least if you're gonna meet them, just recognize that they're people. That's how you should try to approach it. Don't try to aggrandize them.
Well, that's why I don't understand the concept of being starstruck anymore. And my dad's been trying to think of like who I would actually be starstruck by. To me, I've always looked at all of them as people. I don't know. There are people that I have a high degree of respect for and would be encouraged to meet, but even now former President Biden, when he was vice president and I met him, you have one of those handlers that is going to introduce you to them because that way they can introduce you by name and shake, hello, Tom, kind of thing. So I'm in a rope line trying to meet him, and the handler's trying to, do you go by Tom or Thomas? I said, I don't care. Either's fine. Well, he overhears this, and Joe Biden, being Uncle Joe, says, well, what do you want to be called? I said, Mr. Vice President, you can call me whatever you'd like. Okay, Sydney it is. Now, that's just a nice interaction with everybody, but I've had, I don't know how many different weird celebrity run-ins, and I don't want this to turn into a mic drop, name-dropping session that leads just to me kind of patting myself on the back for being in the presence of other people. That's not what this point is trying to make. But what I'm trying to say is that I've always taken the tact that they're all people, regardless of who it is. I don't know. I mean, if I met Elon Musk on the street, other than I would probably flip him off, he's a guy. I don't think he's any more special than anybody else. He just had the right circumstances meet up to be able to have the right resources and the right intelligence at the right time to become who he is.
And I agree with you too about being starstruck. I've only been to starstruck the one time.
Okay.
I was actually I've only been that was just weird. It was just a weird moment where I froze because I had questions and I blanked in my head and I couldn't talk to this person, and I ended up saying I love your music and then walked away. I couldn't figure out what to say. But any other time, I'm in the same boat as you. I'm like, I look at them, I'm like, they're a person. They have days. They get up from bed. They sleep at night. They have to put their pants on one leg at a time.
But then they go out and they make gold records.
Yeah, they go out and make gold records. But, I mean...
Gotta have more cowbell.
Same thing we say, more cowbell. You have a fever.
I do. And the only prescription
is more cowbell. But no, like I said, it's actually kind of funny. I've actually met one of the people from this movie.
Okay.
And it's kind of a segue because when we were talking before this, you didn't understand when I kept phrasing "lock the gates up."
Is that Mark Maron?
It's Mark Maron.
You've actually met Mark Maron. Okay.
I've met Mark Maron, and it was one of the weird interactions I've had with a celebrity because I didn't realize I was in a line to meet him. And there's not people that know much about my history, but I used to intern at a natural history museum, and we'd have volunteer days where we'd be on the side of the streets, and people come and give us money, and then we tell them animal facts. Well, we had these animal facts written on pieces of paper for us to do so we can remember them. So someone called up, we can tell them what this animal fact was. Well, when I met Mark Maron, it was one of those days that I was doing that. And I ended up finding myself in a line to meet Mark Maron, not realizing it, and then also realizing as we went through the line that everyone was giving him something. And I didn't have anything to give him other than this piece of paper that had animal facts on it. So when I got to him, I'm like, here you go. And it's like, oh, are these jokes? I'm like, nope, just animal facts. And you can see like the stare in his look. He's like, is there something wrong with you? And I'm like, all right, nice to meet you. Have a good day. I walked away.
Well, given how his personality is, I can definitely picture this interaction. Now, the half-assed journalist that I am, knowing my audience, you did say you got starstruck once, and I would be remiss if I didn't circle back and ask whom it was.
So unless people listen to underground music, it was a guitar singer for the band Die Spitz.
Okay.
I went to see them back in May. I've been waiting to see them for about a year and a half because I really love their band. If you've been to our events, I'm usually wearing one of their shirts at the events. And I was actually talking to the bassist for like 10 to 15 minutes beforehand. And that's the one I think is the weird one of the group, of the band. I'm like, I don't know what to say. That person seems odd. I ended up talking to her for like 10 to 15 minutes, and then there's a break, like, all right, bye, and then walk right into her, and it's the guitarist that I love all of her songs, and I was like, I couldn't think of anything to say. And I'm like, there's a brief moment, you can see the stare, look, like, what's going on? I'm like, I love your songs, and I just beeline out of the book. I was like, I couldn't handle it. I'm like, oh my god. And I walked, and I'm like, I was starstruck. Like, I couldn't get a like. Up to that point, I made fun of people who got starstruck, but I'm like, oh my god, I got starstruck. Got nervous. I couldn't think of what to say.
Interesting. Okay. Well, if anybody knows who the band is and who that person is,
And they might not know. Like I said, it's not that wide of a known band, but they're getting bigger, so we'll see.
good deal. All right, let's move to Did You Know here. Did you know? To look like a real rock band, the 4 actors in Stillwater rehearsed for 4 hours a night, 5 nights a week for 6 weeks. The film is director Cameron Crowe's semi-autobiographical account of life as a young Rolling Stone reporter. The actual group Crowe first toured with was the Allman Brothers Band. Greg Allman distrusted him and kept asking if he was a narc. Crowe was in a near-fatal plane crash while traveling with The Who, and the character of Russell Hammond is partially based on Glenn Frey of the Eagles. I know that one I put in here strategically so my dad would react, but, well, he's not here. Did you know? Most films have music budgets of less than $1.5 million. This film featured over 50 songs with a music budget of $3.5 million. So more than double the normal type. Did you know? Stillwater songs were written by Peter Frampton, who also had a small part in the film, Cameron Crowe, and his ex-wife Nancy Wilson of the rock band Heart. The music acknowledgments credit Russell Hammond and Stillwater as if they were the real authors and performers. Did you know? According to Cameron Crowe, he sent the script around town to see if he could get anyone to respond to it. Steven Spielberg, founder of DreamWorks, read Crowe's 172-page script over the weekend and called Crowe on Monday saying, "Direct every word." Crowe said he filmed almost all of the script. That's got to feel pretty good, don't you think? Yeah. The guy who's quite literally probably the greatest director of all time gives you sign off that you've written a terrific script. Did you know? At the party, Russell Hammond cries out, "I am a golden god," when he is on acid. That is a reference to Robert Plant of Led Zeppelin, who is purported to have said the same thing while he was sober, while looking over Sunset Strip from a hotel balcony. I mean, I can see it. Robert Plant is a weird dude.
Yeah. I wouldn't myself yell that.
No.
And I feel like he's someone that would yell it and mean it.
Yeah.
Not do it sarcastically. Like, I could yell it, but it'd be sarcastic. But like, that sounds like a guy who's like, I actually think that I'm a golden god.
Yeah. I think he's probably my least favorite member of Led Zeppelin.
Yeah.
I think he takes himself a way too seriously.
Mm-hmm. Even over the bassist?
Well, yeah.
The least favorite member of every band?
I like John Paul Jones.
Yeah.
He's never done anything to anybody.
Yeah.
And he's definitely not the genius that Jimmy Page is, so.
Yeah. That's why we can't trust him.
Finally, did you know? When Cameron Crowe's mother appeared on the set for a cameo, Crowe made every effort to keep her away from Frances McDormand, who was playing a character based on her. So McDormand's interpretation of the part wouldn't be swayed. When he left the set for a few minutes on the first day of shooting, he returned to find McDormand and his mother having lunch together.
That gets me.
Yeah.
I just like that part. Because that part felt very, very real. I saw a lot of my mom when I was rewatching this, and I'm like, oh, okay. It felt very, 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 very real to me in that part. So I could see him not wanting her to be there. So like, I don't want her to influence.
I have no real disagreement with any of Frances McDormand's 3 Oscar wins, and I think she's quite literally one of the best actresses of the last 25 years. So I'm fine with that.
Yeah.
But that looks like a good spot for our first break. We will be right back. Before we jump back into the episode, next week for our 279th episode, we welcome back Frank Mendoza of Reels of Cinema and Movies Across the Pod to discuss Ordinary People from 1980, celebrating its 45th anniversary. Directed by Robert Redford, written by Alvin Sargent, cinematography by John Bailey, music by Marvin Hamlish, starring Donald Sutherland, Mary Tyler Moore, Judd Hirsch, and Timothy Hutton. You won't want to miss that one, so watch ahead of the show by searching the Real Good app to find where it's streaming for you. That's REELGOOD. All right, Jesse, knowing that you don't really have anything to self-promote with, let's just move ahead. We left off at Best Performance. Who do you have down?
Nick Swartzen, in the scene where they meet David Bowie.
What?
No, I'm just joking. I'm just joking. Oh, you don't remember that scene? He goes, "Oh my God, it's Bowie!" Every time, it gets me every time.
I mean, there's so many random people in this movie that are like, or have gone on to, like, I can name check them. He was one of them, but after the end of the movie, I guarantee you, I forgot completely that he was in this movie.
Yeah.
Like, I forgot for a while that Mark Maron was in it until we brought him back up again. Because, I don't know, there's just so many random people. Like, Zooey Deschanel is in this, and Philip Seymour Hoffman is in this. And, I mean, you start going through a list of all these people, and it's like, okay, Rainn Wilson, before The Office, is in this. So it's like, they did a great job of casting.
No, it's a very good job. But no, I was just joking aside there. But so it would be a tie for me. I really love the script written by Cameron Crowe. I really do like the script. I think it writes very well. It's a very easy story to read, to listen, to watch, and go through. I think it's very compelling. I don't recall the mom's name, even though you brought her
Elaine.
up. Elaine? No, the actress name's Elaine?
Well, Frances McDormand?
Frances McDormand. I thought she was very great. Like we were talking early in the cast, we were talking about how I almost completely conceived my mom in that particular role. I'm like, it was very believable as the overbearing mom trying to control the situation that was going on. And I felt compelled with her. And she's one of the reasons why I go back to watch it is to see her dealing with particular characters throughout the movie. And it's one of the little side notes that makes me laugh.
So I had Cameron Crowe both as writer and director for Best Performance in this because I think it is, obviously, we tend to overput, especially writer-directors in this category of Best Performance, just due to the totality of everything they have to do with the movie. Him, it's basically his story, and he helped write the music, and he created all of these relationships. So I think it would be kind of disingenuous for me not to put him as Best Performer. But on Frances McDormand, and I'll just say this quickly, in a lesser actress's hands, this is a two-dimensional role because it just becomes caricature instead of character. And the mother could be somewhat like easily comedic in the way that it's just so broadly or kind of rigidly defined by what's seen on the page. But Frances McDormand, through a lot of facial gestures and looks and different things, makes it seem much more human and vulnerable. And even though she has all of these foibles and such, there is care, so that by the time you get to the scene where the daughter and the mother make up at the end of the movie, it's believable that they've kind of let down their guard a little bit because she's had to grow along with William to let him go out on this adventure by himself. That even though he's not calling her twice a day with all of this rigidity that she has because she's so quote unquote intense, that she's made this cathartic leap as well so that she can kind of relax a little bit, allow people back into her life, not worry so much that everything's going to go wrong, especially because he's been in quite literally one of the situations where it could easily spiral out of control. And he's not only survived, but he's done well. So she now has faith that the rest of humanity is not necessarily going to abandon her either. I think the one thing they don't really explore in the script, and it was kind of a throwaway, is his dad died, and we don't really know how. And so part of that background and the trauma and the rest of it, I'm sure, informs a lot of who the mother is. But this is also written from a first-person perspective instead of by the character themselves. So it's his perspective of who his mother is. So you can definitely feel that, though, in that performance. And I do have to respect it because Frances McDormand is an extremely talented actress.
Yes, I would agree with that. That final scene between her, when they finally meet, her and the sister finally meet up, I really like that scene because you could see they're both very independent women, and they're both like don't really know what they're doing, and they're trying to do a hug, but they can't really hug, and are they supposed to kiss? And like they don't know what to do, and it's just like, wow, throughout this whole movie, both of them are controlling everything around them, and they're put in this situation without their knowledge, and it's just fun to watch that particular scene. I thought they did very well in it.
Best secondary performance, I have Patrick Fugit. I think he has to carry so much of this movie on his shoulders because he has to be broadly appealing, be somewhat naive, even though I don't think he was probably 15 at the time that he was actually playing this. I think they'd have a hard time getting away with all of this if he was actually 15 when they filmed this. But there's a lot for that character to do and be for the audience, to be likable, to be a little bit lost, to have this wild-eyed naivete about everything that's going on around him, but yet it feels so innocent from his perspective that it feels okay. I mean, you could be very jaded about everything that's happening to him, but instead it feels warm and friendly. And I think some of that has to do with the tone of the direction, definitely due to some of the cinematography and the visual style and storytelling that's going on in this. But I just think he does a wonderful job of feeling like a kid in this fantastic world and not feeling overwhelmed at all times that it's too big for him or that he's got this weird imposter syndrome, so that you can be a part of the world too.
For me, I'd say Kate Hudson is Penny Lane. On that particular one. She's a person that's put up all of these walls in order to protect herself. So obviously she's got some sort of issues where there's heartache going on. She's put up all these walls. She's got a whole different name. She doesn't go by her own name just to protect that. And she's got a persona that's very inviting to everybody. But at the same time, you can see the trauma underneath, that she is very delusional, very naive, very confused about what she's trying to do with her life. And it's killing her throughout the whole movie that she's in a situation that she can't, it's not going anywhere. She's in a relationship essentially that's going to end at the end of the summer. And she keeps this persona in herself that, yeah, it's going to go on beyond it. And it takes finally someone that she just met to kind of try to break her out of it. And when she finally does, she actually follows a dream that she has, which is for some reason going to Morocco of all places. But that's mine. I just really liked her performance in this particular movie.
No, I think you landed on something I would share in that. I have her for most charismatic. It's hard not to fall in love with her in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
There's an innocence, a pure of heart nature to her. Like she feels like she has William's interests at heart at all times. And she's kind of, even though he falls in love with her, there's like a Florence Nightingale kind of syndrome going on with this, that she's leading him through this. She's caretaking so that he gets not only the access, but she protects him from a lot of things. And he stays with her. So there's a closeness that she becomes somewhat of a mother figure that he then kind of has this weird Oedipal complex with by the end of the movie. But she is definitely like easy to love in this movie with the way that she's written, and she's kind of through his eyes. And so it's thus the audience's perspective, this almost angel-like quality.
Mother figure. I like that. I would not have thought of her as a mother figure to him.
Well, she just shepherds him through so much of this. And I mean, we'll get to this here in a minute with best scene, but like yes, he gets himself through the backstage door, but she's also trying to get him through, then trying to get him access. Then there's this, I mean, there's so much where she's the buffer between him and all the potential bad things that could happen to him while he's on the road with this band.
I think it's more of a similarities between the two that she recognizes, that there's similarities between both of them. They're kind of the same type of person essentially, but the mother figure just, I don't get that. I don't get that part there for you. That's one thing I'm helping.
Okay. Who did you have as most charismatic?
Most charismatic? I gotta look up his name.
Okay.
Jeff Beebe was Jason Lee.
Jason Lee. Okay.
He just draws me. He takes over every scene he's in. I love it. And then, like, he plays the jaded front man who wants the spotlight. He pulls it down to the key. Like, every word he said, you can feel the hate coming through every word, especially when he has his conversations with, which I can't remember any of the names of any of these people. For Russell, when he's speaking to Russell, you could feel the hate for Russell the entire time.
The two great scenes with him are the t-shirt and the plane.
That's how can you tell? I'm one of the guys that's out of focus.
Yeah.
My favorite scene with him is when he's leaving in the bathroom. It's a very throwaway scene. He's like, "Oh, it's all right. Just take off. Just leave me. I'm only the lead fucking singer." And the bus is like driving away. That gets me every time. It's just like, you can just see, like, he is just so fed up with what's going on. He's like, I'm the front man. Why am I the secondary person to this entire story?
All right, let's move to best scene then. I have 5 nominees here. I have backstage door, which is kind of the point where this movie really picks up. I mean, yeah, it has kind of a weird lead in with the sister and the mother and kind of describing his family life. But really, to me, this film kind of takes off when he shows up to interview Black Sabbath. Then I have Party in Topeka, or you could say the Golden God sequence. I have Saving Penny, which is the Quaaludes moment, which got a little bit weirdly real for a movie that's kind of semi-comedic, semi-rose-colored glasses through all of it. Then I have Plane Ride Over Tupelo, which is pretty self-explanatory, especially if you've seen the movie. And I have the final scene, William and Russell make up. Did you have any other ones you would like to add?
No, I mean, the other thing I would only add is the party in Topeka. I go a little further back to when they have the big fight. So it seems like it's all, even though he goes to the party, it's like, this is the starting the match that gets him to go to that. That's one thing.
So you have the t-shirt scene.
I do have the t-shirt scene.
Okay.
I mean, you could put those both together. Actually, just put it as a slash. T-shirt scene, plane ride, because it's the same thing. It's the same scene, essentially, except it's in a different setting.
No, but I'll have it as its own thing here. So we'll have backstage door, band t-shirt, Party in Topeka, Saving Penny, Plane Ride Over Tupelo, and William and Russell make up. To me, as much as I like a lot of these other scenes, and I'm going to nominate some other stuff here for favorite scene and indelible moment, I think the best scene overall is backstage door, because it does a great job of world building the access to this world, and kind of, it's like the first moments through the door to Oz or the door to Narnia. Like, you're in this completely new fantasy world, and all of a sudden everybody gives you access and you just kind of breeze on through, and now you're kind of part of the band and you're hanging out with them and the groupies and, well, band-aids and all of this other stuff that goes with it. And it's just so fantastical that, especially with how he meets certain characters in that moment, the security guard and trying to get past him is a challenge. Then you get to the point where he meets Penny and the rest of the band-aids. They get him through. Then you meet Stillwater, and that has a whole nother thing. So really, that could have been the introduction for me, other than it had to establish more of his family life in advance of that to kind of give a little bit more background as to who he is. But again, I think the movie really picks up in that moment and gives you this great kernel of everybody's just thrown together all of a sudden very quickly, and he becomes a member of everything else that's going on. And you're like, how did he ever not be a part of everything else that's been going on with this band?
For me, it bet the party in Topeka. That's the one I would say is the best scene.
Because you're a golden god?
Because I am a golden god. Yes, I take drugs. No. Or I'm on drugs. I'm on drugs! Jumps off. We gotta think of something better to say. But no, it's just, like I said, I go all the way back to the t-shirt, because like you have the fight over the t-shirt. You can see the tensions building. He wants to blow off steam. What's the better way to blow off steam is to this almost ridiculous party in the city of Topeka. And like that's what I love about it. It's so fantastical. Like I've been to parties before. I've never been to a party where it is spilled on to the street, and it's all people who I suppose. I mean, this is the 70s, so like I'm assuming that they're 18 quotes, but like supposedly like people who were, below the drinking age. And like I've had a lot of parties like that where it's spilled out, but you get closed because you have a noise complaint of something like that.
Well, the drinking age was still 18 for most of those kids at that point yet.
Yeah. So like there's still like I felt like they were teenagers. So like it was just so fantastic. You go to this and like it's just a fun scene. It kind of stripes at it. You can see the frustrations, and at the end of the scene, it's just everything's coming back to reality. Oh crap! I'm a rock star. I have to go back on the road. And just You could see like he's trying to blow off steam, but the steam isn't blown off. He has that brief interaction with William where he's asking if he's a cop, and what's the band manager said he only means half of what he says. Which half? That's the big question there. That's what I love about that scene. But like I said, I just like it. I do like what you say in your scene. You get the introduction to the world on that particular one. I love how he gets his way in on that scene, where he basically plays at the arrogance or the self-love of the narcissism of all the things. Like he calls them all by name. He tells them everything's great about them. He uses incendiary, and like you could just see they're like, oh yeah, we're the greatest band of all time. It's just very thoughtful way of getting into the actual world. Whereas his other avenues are like, I have a magazine that says Cream. You should let me in, which I've never seen that work ever, but it's a good try. But I'm not many things. When I go back to it, I just love the Topeka scene because I feel like it encapsulates the fantasy part of the movie for me.
Then favorite scene, for me, it's the plane ride. That is so fucking funny. Like, he makes this big deal out of his on again, off again, on again ex-wife relationship. And she's like sleeping with Jeff, and he is so fucking angry at that. Yet Jimmy Fallon's just sitting over in the corner, like cowering, and I quit.
You can see the spiral because it starts off very small. Like they're going down. He's like, "Hey everyone, I just want everyone to know I love you." And then the next person talking is Jimmy Fallon. I hit a man, and like it's in Chicago or something like that. I hit a man, hit and run, drove off. I don't know what happened. I don't know if he's right, but I think about it.
See his face every day.
You see his face, like, and you can hear like the wife, like, "Oh my god!" it just devolves from there.
And ending it on the guy confessing that he's gay, and they like, "Oh my god, we're still alive."
He's just like shuts the door. But yeah, like I said, that scene's cats. Like I love it. I mean, it's a drama, but it has these spur of moments of comedy, and I just love the comedy bits in it throughout the movie. And like that ending part where he's like, I'm gay," and then and then it's like, and I'm like, oh, it's so perfect writing there. And you can just see on his horrified face, like, oh no, what am I gonna do? And everyone's just staring. I love it. Everyone's just staring. Like everyone just like poured their hearts out. Of like you know about like interrelational relationships between other people. Another dude killed somebody, but everyone's staring at the last guy. I'm like, whoa, what's going on here? But no, I would say that I love that scene. Still, my favorite scene is still the Topeka. Just for the simple fact of the one thing is like, how do you know when it's kicked in, when the acid's kicked in? Boom, right into the next scene. I'm a golden god in the top of the thing. Oh, it's so perfect on that one. But that, you had me.
To be quite honest, I have the plane ride as my most indelible moment too. I laughed so hard at that.
Yeah, so that's the most indelible moment. The lock the gates, for the simple fact that of Mark Maron's podcast. So I said that scene just right over my head when I was younger. Didn't think about it. Started listening to Mark Maron, like 10 plus years ago, and I could hear the first thing he says, "Lock the gates," and the first thing he says in every podcast episode. And I'm like, I've heard that before. And then finally, coming back and watching the movie and hearing that scene in the movie, and I'm like, oh my god, it's stuck in my head from there on in. The other parts is I'm just one of the out of focus guys. Oh, that scene that sticks in my head. Like, I'm a golden god. I mean that's on the trailer. I mean, I don't know how you cannot remember that scene. And then the don't take drugs scene that sticks in my head. Because that's something I mean, if I ever have children, that's something I'll do. Just, they'll never understand it, but I'll yell out of the car, "Don't take drugs!"
Yeah. All right. So that looks like a good spot for our second break. We'll be right back. Before we jump back into the episode, and before we get to the Stanley Rubric in a minute, if you're ever curious about our Master Greatest Movies of All Time list, that is every graded movie we've ever discussed on the show, there's a link in the episode description of every episode of this show, or you can go to RonnieDuncanStudios.com and find us the top entry on the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast show page. That has the grades we've done so far for all 250 movies we've graded, and we continue to add more each week. Make sure to check that out as we go and follow along. Well, we do have some people to remember this week, so I guess I will be pulling double duty on the In Memoriam here. First up, we have Frank Price, 95, American television producer of The Virginian and studio executive, both of Columbia Pictures and Universal Television. He'd been a long-time studio executive. Most of what he had done was shepherding different film projects. I'm sure that through the 80s and particularly the 90s, Columbia Pictures was a big deal for making certain movies. I think Back to the Future might have been Columbia Pictures. I'm pretty sure Ghostbusters was, and those both fell under his watchful eye, let's say. So that is certainly somebody that had a hand in a lot of movies that people hold dearly. Then we have Floyd Levine, 93, American actor. He was in Blood Brothers, Melrose Place, Coach Carter, and Airplane 2, the sequel. I'm not sure why Dad included Airplane 2, the sequel, other than he's just a big Zucker, and Abraham fan. But another person that we lost this week. And finally, this was a late addition today. Graham Greene, 73, Canadian actor and musician. He's most notable for his Oscar nomination for Dances with Wolves for Best Supporting Actor. He was also in several different 90s movies, most notably Maverick, The Green Mile, Die Hard with a Vengeance. He'd gone on to do some television appearances later or more recently, and he's been in and out of different things, but he was one of those character actor performances where I don't know if I necessarily ever knew his name, and it was not somebody that like I was terribly familiar with where I'd seen him before, but he's that guy. And most of the time when you see that guy, it's just somebody that is very comforting to have, that they're on screen, that you know that they're a good actor and you're in good hands with them. So if anything I can say for any of the great character actors over time is you may not know their name, but you definitely feel their presence whenever they're on screen. And so we remember these here fondly with a moment of silence in their honor. Thank you. All right, let's move to best funniest lines. I'll start with the top one here. Dennis Hope, if you think Mick Jagger will be still out there trying to be a rock star at age 50, then you are sadly mistaken.
I'm a golden god.
Yeah, okay. Penny Lane, I always tell the girls, never take it seriously. If you never take it seriously, you never get hurt. You never get hurt. You always have fun. And if you ever get lonely, just go to the record store and visit your friends.
I got Lester Baines. I really like this quote from him. The only true currency in this bankrupt world is what you share with someone else when you're uncool.
Yeah, that's a good one. Dennis Hope. I didn't invent the rainy day man. I just own the best umbrella.
The age conversation with Penny and William. How old are you? 18. Me too. How old are we really? 17. Me too. Actually, I'm 16. Me too. Isn't that funny? The truth just sounds different. I'm 15.
Yeah. Elaine Miller. Well, there it is. Your sister used the F word. Young William. I think she said feck. Elaine Miller. What's the difference? Young William. The letter U.
That one gets me. I was actually looking at that one right too. I'll do a Sapphire. They don't even know what it is to be a fan, you know? To truly love someone's silly little piece of music or some band so much that it hurts.
William Miller. That groupie? She was a Band-Aid. All she did was love your band, and you used her, all of you. You used her and threw her away. She almost died last night while you were with Bob Dylan. You guys, you're always talking about the fans, the fans, the fans. She was your biggest fan, and you threw her away. And if you can't see that, that's your biggest problem.
Okay. Elaine Miller, when she's speaking to Russell over the phone. This is not some apron-wearing mother you're speaking with. I know all your Valhalla of decadence, and I shouldn't have let him go. He's not ready for your world of compromised values and diminished brain cells that you throw away like confetti, and I'm speaking to you clearly.
Lester Bangs. Here's a theory for you to disregard completely. Music, you know, true music, not just rock and roll, it chooses you. You know, it lives in your car or alone, listening to your headphones with vast scenic bridges and angelic choirs in your brain. You know, it's a place apart from the vast benign lap of America.
So this is Russell and William while Russell's on the roof. And you can tell Rolling Stone magazine that my last words were, I'm on drugs! Russell, I think we should work on those last words. I got it. Last words, I dig music. I'm on drugs!
All right. William Miller, I have to go home. Penny Lane, you are home.
So Russell, what do you love about music? Russell, to begin with, everything.
I am out.
No, I'm pretty good too.
All right. So let's move to the Stanley rubric then. Legacy is up first. This is a measurement of the legacy of the film approximately 5 years after it came out. So 2005 to today, the last 20 years. What is the legacy of this film as compared between the industry and the audience? We split this category 5 and 5 points apiece between those two groups for a total of 10. Now, you told me ahead of time that you're not as comfortable with some of the rubric, so I think I'm just going to lead every category and let you kind of either debate me or rebuke me or whatever you want to do, especially since I don't have Dana to shoot off of here tonight. So we'll go from there, and I'll just lead this one. Legacy-wise, I think the industry's kind of forgotten this movie. I think there are some people that still appreciate it, but it's never mentioned as like a great movie unless it's kind of like got a small cult following. There are certain people that have name recognition that name check it occasionally. Like I know most of the people that probably are listening to this know of Bill Simmons, the podcaster and sports guy, but also a big movie fan. And this is seemingly one of his favorite movies. It's kind of how I even knew about this movie, was his regular name checking of it. But outside of that, I think this is a relatively forgotten film, even as relatively modern as it is. I mean, 25 years ago is not a ton of time in the grand scheme of things. And so with that, I'm going to go with a 2 on the industry side. On a public side, normally where I kind of put my sliding scale is basically once you get past the initial inertia of has the average or the casual person, the average moviegoer, not the people that never watch movies, but the ones that watch the basic big blockbuster stuff per year, and then maybe a few other things in between. what is their name ID on this? I don't know how many people are going to recognize Almost Famous by name. They know a lot of the people that are in this movie, but I don't know if they know this movie, this title, anything really about it enough to discuss it. This is more of a cinephiles only movie. And I think there are enough of them that have probably seen this, but not enough where it has the name recognition of a Jerry Maguire or a Say Anything or some of the other Cameron Crowe oeuvre classics. So from that standpoint, I'm going to go with a 2.5 on that, and I have a 4.5 overall for Legacy.
Okay, so I'm pretty much lockstep with you on that. I just think about my own perspective with it. I don't think I would have remembered this film other than the one scene, the Golden God scene, for the simple fact that it played endlessly on HBO for 10 plus years. I don't think I would have remembered this film, and I'm in the same category that where it's almost into the cult classic, where you're going to have a distinct group of people who like this film. I know for the film industry itself, yeah, it's forgotten. I mean, it had a little peak of wave in the Oscar season, but I mean, if you think of all the movies that came out at that particular time frame, like I don't recall 2000 being a very, very big movie time. I could be wrong. I think
it's kind of the peak era of people going to the movies, like the casual movie fan.
I know 99 we have a lot of movies that
right
really pop off from there. I just don't recall from 2000. Like I said, if it just came out, it wasn't played overly on HBO, it would be forgotten. So for the industry wise, I'm pretty much in lockstep with you as a 2. I'm a little bit higher on the public side, just for the main fact that it was put into the sphere of HBO and played forever and ever. I feel like people recognize this, especially as we go further on down time, where they look into the Rotten Tomato scores and see, it's a 90%. Let's check this movie out. And is the fact that it's got name checks for pretty big names that are in this movie that went on to have pretty big careers. Like, just start off from the Mark Maron, he's got a pretty big following, but else you have Nick Swartzen, who's a big comic. You had Mitch Hedberg, who obviously he had died in 8 or so years later, but he became a big comic in that particular time frame. Like I said, there's a lot of people that are in that movie that you can find out and go back to it. So I'd give it more of a 4 than, like I said, I'm not going to give it too much in the Legacy because it just feels like a niche film. Like I could probably ask, I can go in my work meeting this week and ask, hey, has anyone seen Almost Famous? I'll probably get crickets for the average fan, but maybe 1 or 2 might recognize the film. So I'd give it a 4. So out of the 2, it'd be a 6 in for me.
Okay. So that's a 5.25 average between the two of us. Now, as long as you were mentioning other films from this particular year, let's just read a few of the ones off the top. The top performing film of 2000 was How the Grinch Stole Christmas. That's the Jim Carrey version. You also had Mission Impossible 2, which was the worst of the Mission Impossible movies. Gladiators in there, The Perfect Storm, Meet the Parents, X-Men, Scary Movie. You have Aaron Brockovich, Charlie's Angels, Big Mama's House, Remember the Titans, The Patriot, What Women Want, so a couple of Mel Gibson films in there, Chicken Run, Gone in 60 Seconds, Castaway, Me, Myself, and Irene, Space Cowboys, Scream 3, Hollow Man, Rugrats in Paris, Stuart Little, The Green Mile, Road Trip, Bring It On, Rules of Engagement, Coyote Ugly, Snow Day, American Beauty, although that was technically from the year before, Fantasia 2000, The Whole Nine Yards, Next Friday, Shanghai Noon. I saw a bunch of these in the theater and I was 10.
This is a bunch of movies I've watched in high school.
The Cider House Rules, A Talented Mr. Ripley, although that again was 99. So, some of these have bled over, but they had some level of box office in 2000. So
it's like a pretty good year. I wouldn't go and say it's a great year for it, but I feel like it'd be more top heavy. It seems like you got a couple movies in there very top heavy, and then a bunch of medium movies. Which Chicken Run was 2000. Man, I'm old.
Yeah, Chicken Run, June 21, 2000.
Another HBO classic rerun.
Here's one that takes me back. December 15th of 2000. Dude, Where's My Car?
That was 2000?
Yep. So was The Legend of Bagger Vance.
I mean, 70 shows
Love
came
and
out in
Basketball.
97.
High Fidelity.
High Fidelity was oh yeah, High Fidelity was 2000. Wow.
So yeah, this is kind of an interesting time where even the mild middle kind of produced films, they were still decent. Because I think from Castaway up, so Castaway, Gone in 60 Seconds, Chicken Run, What Women Want, The Patriot, Remember the Titans, these are all $100 million movies.
Chicken Run was $100 million? Wow.
Chicken Run was 106.
106?
But
wow.
Remember the Titans felt huge, and that was only 113 million and number 14 for the year.
I mean, that one's got a legacy with the public.
Well, except
that's like a 10 for the public.
The number 11 finisher, so 3 spots higher, is Nutty Professor 2: The Clumps.
I remember that one. Okay. That's the one where the hamster gets really big?
I don't know.
And
I have no idea.
Makes love to the dean.
I just remember that it's deadpanned a lot.
The Nutty... I can't... I can barely remember the first Nutty Professor.
It was like the peak second Eddie Murphy run between Mulan and then Shrek, and then he had the Nutty Professor movies. He had Norbit and Daddy Daycare then at the tail end of that.
Shrek 2 was 2000?
No, Shrek 1 was 2001, and I want to say Shrek 2 was 2004. But this is like Eddie had this kind of...
second win. His second win, essentially.
Obviously, Eddie's huge in the 80s and then like the early 90s. But then he has this period where he's just kind of cooled off in like the mid 90s until he gets Mulan. And then he kind of reinvigorates his career. He hits it again with Shrek a couple of years later. But in between there, he's got these Nutty Professor movies, then ending with the abomination that is Norbit, which is, I think, seminally one of the worst films rated ever in the history of Metacritic, Rotten Tomatoes, whatever service you want to use. It's like in the bottom 20. It's like Adam Sandler's Jack and Jill.
I have not seen either one of them, but I've been told to just don't even try.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, I haven't either, specifically because I'm told they're abominable. So I'll let other people suffer through that shit. Anyway, let's move to impact and significance. This is the inverse of legacy. Instead of the 5 years after it was released to now, we're dealing with the 5 years after its release immediately. So 2000 to 2005. What is the impact and significance among the same two groups? The industry and the audience, for a total of 10, 5 and 5 points apiece. So in this category, I think from an industry perspective, the fact that I think it got almost universal critical praise, even though I don't think the audience was there for it, given how it finished for the year. But the critical, I kept some of this alive, especially through like award season and such. I don't know if it ever ended up making back its money, because this was a very expensive movie that just did not produce with the general public. But because it's got an Oscar win, no less for at least a top category in my mind, screenplay is a top category, at least for me. And it was nominated for at least 2 acting awards. I mean, it's not insignificant in a year where I think there was at least a decent array of films, even though there wasn't like one clear great film in 2000 that you could say. I mean, most people would say Gladiator's an all-time film and whatever else. Well, it is and it isn't. Like, it's definitely imperfect. It's a movie I very much enjoy, but you can listen to that episode back from April when we covered that with Kieran and Rob Conlon. But regardless, I'd still come down with a 4 on the industry here. But again, because the audience just didn't seem to be there for it, I really can only give it about a 2. I mean, it wasn't like they didn't come out to see it, but because it was so expensive and it made so little money, and we talked about how many 19 different movies made over $100 million, including fucking Chicken Run. This movie is much better than Chicken Run and Nutty Professor 2, and it didn't touch that. So I don't think the audience was there for this, and thus I have a 6 overall.
First off, how dare you diss Chicken Run?
Okay.
I absolutely love that movie. I possibly will watch it again, just for the simple fact that you brought it back up, and like, I love that movie. But so on the industry wide, I'm pretty much in lockstep with you when it comes to this for the classicness. Just by the simple fact, it just didn't make money.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's a $60 million budget, and made, I think he said 47 coming back
Yeah.
in a film in a timeline where you had. I mean, I don't want to diss Chicken Run, but Chicken Run is essentially you have other movies that, I mean, they're very simple movies like Chicken Run. It's just an animated comedy. That's
If you
just
want to pick on some other movies, just pick on the two Mel Gibson ones, What Women Want, which I think might have been, it's like basically a Mel Gibson rom-com, or you could take the historical war movie in The Patriot, and that made a bunch of money. And I didn't think it was bad, but like, this movie is better than those.
definitely better than those, especially What Women Want. That movie is terrible, even though there's one scene that sticks in my head forever when he's I think it's when he gets the girl from the coffee shop and she's like thinking about he's been having sex with her and she's thinking about like shopping or something like that. It's completely like she's completely somewhere else during that whole moment, and you can tell like it really affected him. But I mean, that's pretty much all I can remember from that movie. Yeah, but like going back to it, like I said, the audience. I mean, it didn't make money. I mean, $47 million. I mean, that seems very very low. And I'm like, would Naked Gun, the remake, made more than that? I wouldn't put. I mean, I liked it, but I wouldn't put it on the same tier as this movie.
No. But they're also trying to do very different things too.
Yeah, but it's still like that had. I don't know. It's just so strange in that portion. But with the critics, like it's obviously adored. It was nominated for multiple Academy Awards. I wouldn't put it as low as you, because I think you had 4. I'd put more of a 6. But I would agree with you on the audience portion of it as a 2. So that give me a total of an 8 then.
You can't have an 8.
Or an 8. Oh, I can't?
Yeah, you can max out at 5 on the one side.
5 and the 1. Oh, so, okay. So I put it at more of a 4 and then a 2.
So you're the exact same score I am.
Yeah. I guess I am. Well, I want to be higher than you.
But you're not. So we're gonna call it.
I'll put a 5 because I don't agree with your particular. I think you're not as. I think you're kind of low on the industry side. So I'm gonna go 5. But I agree with you on the public side of 2. So 5 and 2. There we go. So give me a 7.
Okay, so then that's a 6.5 average. Good Lord. All right, let's move to Novelty. Novelty is a measurement of the originality of anything having to do with the movie. Typically, we usually have this category meaning like the subject material or the story or something else. And while this very specific story of a young kid on the road with a band is not by itself unique, like we've had other on the road with a band movies prior to this, so that feels a little bit familiar, and I think it's supposed to feel a little bit familiar. Again, this is kind of a vibes movie, and so you have to have that imagination, that wonder, in order for this movie to kind of work for you. So I don't think that there's necessarily a huge originality, but I don't necessarily discount it either. I think it's got some, but it's not like anywhere near a full 5 where we're talking about some of the most unique and special movies, or that they're really genre redefining. So I'm going to go with a 3.5 on that. But I think this is a very well executed movie, which is the other half of this category. I think the acting is particularly good. I think the casting is particularly good, given how many people we talked about earlier are in this movie before they really became famous. I mean, Philip Seymour Hoffman was only in a couple of things up to this point. He'd been in Boogie Nights. He'd been in The Talented Mr. Ripley. And this might be like the third thing. But Rainn Wilson before he was in The Office. You have Jay Baruchel before he was in any of the Judd Apatow movies. So there's a lot of people in this cast that I think have gone on to do other things and do a lot of good work ahead of their time. So from that standpoint, I think that it's a really good story. I think it's pretty well directed. The only caveats I would have is I don't think that the cinematography adds a ton to this movie other than just the basic lighting and tone and some of the motif with it. So I'm going to give that a 4.5, and I have an 8 overall.
I think we're almost pretty much the same. Yeah.
Wow, that feels familiar.
What do you mean? But no, on mine, but I'm gonna go with the novelty. I'm like I said, from my perspective on that is just how it is written. It's a little bit different. They wrote all their own songs for it. Like I said, I don't encounter that often where they write all the songs for the movie. And now for that particular one, like it made the world more unique. Like I said, I've seen the movies where you on the road movies, and they felt kind of cookie cutter, or just felt a little bit different from that. So that I would give them a 4. The other portion with the actual effectiveness of the movie itself, I'm pretty much lockstep with you with a 4.5 on that. I do agree that the cinematography. I know Kevin Crowe has directed a couple movies before them, but it just didn't feel like a seasoned director. It felt more of like very static shots. They didn't take very many risks. The lighting was okay throughout it, but I did enjoy the acting, the script. Like I said, I've been on this show 5 times, and like I can remember half the stuff. I just had to look up a couple of things from a couple of lines, but I can still remember half the lines, and they still have a meaning to me since I've watched the movie. But yeah, about 4.5. So I'm at 8.5 then, the total.
All right, so that's an 8.25 average between the two of us. Then let's turn to classicness, our most nuanced category, and I will lead my guest through this one. Essentially put, the barometer of this category has always been whether it's aged well or not. And we'll usually add points in only for a few different things, such as it was progressive for its time or ahead of its time. It was discussing themes or issues that were somewhat unique or new. And some of that might have to do with novelty. And I'll admit that some of these categories overlap a little bit in certain areas. But we usually start at a baseline starting point of 6, just because it's usually easier to knock something for being old or out of touch or just having a different culture and aesthetic than it is necessarily to give it points up. And so from that standpoint, I'll mention a couple of very small things in my mind. One is, technically there's a statutory rape in this, but it's likely overlooked because it's a guy. And of course, there's like a male fantasy about that. So depending on your perspective, that doesn't necessarily age well. I'll take a point off for that. I also think the way this somewhat glamorizes the rock star lifestyle and the drug-seeking behavior, or that drug culture is okay, also doesn't particularly age well, even though it's period accurate. So I'll take off another point there. Yet I'm going to add a point back in because this is 25 years old, and I think because it's somewhat a period piece, even though it's somewhat fictional, it doesn't feel terribly aged. I mean, yes, they're still using like rotary phones in this, and they don't have cell phones and such, but I think that helps keep it somewhat grounded and the realism that's still there. So from that standpoint, I'll add back in a point, and I end up at a 5 for this category.
Okay. I would agree with you about the statutory rape. I don't think that would fly in movies right now. And I'm thinking of mostly both ends of it. I mean, it didn't get that far in the Penny Lane scene where she takes the Quaaludes, but William technically takes advantage of her in that scene. And it's kind of weird how it's shot. It makes it look, I mean, when she's vomiting, it almost makes it feel like a sex scene, because every time she's vomiting, the look is on her legs, back to his eyes, back to her legs. It's like it feels like he's having this sexual moment in his head with her, even though the sexual moment is her vomiting into a bathtub.
Yeah.
And then I forgot the other thing that I was going to bring up. I was thinking about it. It's going to come to me pretty soon. But for the classicness. But like I said, it's a period piece. So I can't really fault it for that. It's back in the top. Oh, okay. There was a thing back at that time frame that I recall from a lot of films when they try to bring up period, like the period time, where they bring up things that used to be that doesn't happen anymore. And the thing they brought up was the mojo, where they is the precursor to the fax machine, where it takes
Oh
18
yeah.
minutes per page. And he kind of described it takes 18 minutes per page. And it was like, I mean, that's just it's like that takes you kind of out of the movie. And I'm like,
Yeah. I mean, it's played for comedic effect, but
Mhm.
it also, I get what you mean. It's like, okay, now we feel exactly what time period this is in.
Yeah, and like it's trying to hit you over the head. Oh yeah, it's the 70s. I'm like, I understand it's the 70s. Everyone's dressed like it's the 70s. All the cars are from the 70s and the 60s. The music is 70s. Even though I almost thought one was different, but then I realized it was like really around that time. But still. On yours, you ended up at a 5.5, you said?
Nope, just a 5.
Just a 5? Okay. On mine, for that, I was probably at a 7. With the biggest thing being the statutory rape. That's my biggest detractor. I'm like, I don't think that would fly right now in any sort of movie, but never know, it could. But like, it's just something that's kind of glossed. It's kind of glossed over in that movie, and I'm like, that's kind of a big deal. What happened here? This kid's 15, and these women are obviously in their 20s, and then they reverse around. I'm like, I don't think that would fly. Where they film a man taking advantage of a woman and make it seem like a romantic scene.
So this category starts at a 6, and you have to have reasons to move it up. And everything you've cited is moving
reason to move it down.
So how do you end up at a 7?
How do I end up in the 7?
Like, you have to have points in its favor why it's either ahead of time or it's timeless or something that is positive about the age of this film. Whereas all 3 things that you've mentioned are detractions.
Are detractors. Oh, okay. The rules are different now in my head. All right. So my detractors would actually lower it down. So we'll do. I think it's a big detractor then. So I was starting off at a 10, and I moved it down to a 7. So
you'd actually be at a 3.
we got to. If we start off at 6, I wouldn't. Okay. I'm trying to do quick math here. I probably would be at a 4.5 then.
Okay. So mine was at a 5, so then this is a 4.75.
Okay.
All right. Now, the last category we have is rewatchability. I usually lend my guests some level of subjectivity. I know that you clearly enjoy this film and have seen it quite a number of times over the decades. I myself have tried to be a little bit more objective with this category than we had prior in the past and separate out some of my personal feelings. And I really enjoyed this movie. I think I would return to it multiple other times. But separating that out, if you can get people past the point at which they can get over they haven't heard of this film or why would I want to watch this kind of thing, I think this is an easily enjoyable film for most people if you can get them to that point. And so from that standpoint, I don't think it feels particularly long. I really didn't have a whole lot of a difficult time trying to hang with this movie for as long as I did. And it's 2-ish hours. I could have probably even hung with it maybe another 10 minutes without really having much of a problem, as long as it had some reason for me to hang with it. But I think this ends at about the exact time that it should, at around the 2-hour mark. And it's just a fun movie world to be a part of. So I think I'm going to go with a 7 here.
So I like how you approach that, where you went with your own thought process and then the public. So I'll try to approach that the same way.
Okay.
I think I've described how I personally look at films. I have out of a 5, and a 4 out of 5. A 5 being top films of all time. They're my top 10 list, top 20 list. I'm actively seeking them, actively want to watch them. 4 would be movies that I enjoy and I will watch anytime I see them. So they're the remote droppers. 3 are movies that I've seen, I like, more than likely not watch again. 2 are movies that I don't particularly like, but I will watch them if I needed to. 1 are movies I don't like at all. And then 0 are movies that, why did I watch this? The years of my life are gone because of this movie. So this one I put as a 4 then. I put it as a 4 out of 5 then. So it'd be times as a 10, so it'd be 8. Because like I said, it's a movie that I actively like when it comes on, I will watch it. I'll watch it to its conclusion. Audience, I would probably put as a 3.
Well, there's no audience part of this one.
No, I'm using it in my own rubric to get to an actual score to try to take my subjectivity out of it. Okay. So I put audience as like a 3 then, and like they watch it, they more than likely would like it. They'd probably watch it again if it was on, but they're probably not like me, or if they see it on the television, they're going to turn to it and watch it. They're going to maybe if they come across it, they'll watch it again, but they like it when they did watch it. So that's a 3 times 2 is 6. So it's 8, 14 divided by 2. So that'd be a 7 total out of them.
Which is my score.
Yeah.
All right. So that's a 7 average between the two of us. For audience score on this one, we had an 86% for Google users and a 92% for Rotten Tomato users, giving us an 8.9. So to repeat the categories, we had a 5.25 for legacy, a 6.5 for impact and significance, an 8.25 for novelty, a 4.75 for classicness, a 7 for rewatchability, an 8.9 for audience score, giving us a final total of 40.65, and currently placing it on our list, tied with Full Metal Jacket at number 205. It is in between Love Actually and Ex Machina, 2 other films that I've greatly enjoyed. So as usual, if you have any comments, questions, remarks, hate mail to send, you can write us at greatestaltimemoviepodcast@gmail.com. You can find us on any of our socials at gmodepodcast, or you can write us at ronnieduncanstudios.com/gmodepodcast. Remaining questions for this one. How long after the conclusion does Stillwater actually last as a band?
Ooh, maybe another album.
I think they break up in the next tour. I mean, if you're flashing forward and they're doing the 74 tour, I don't think they survive to the end of that tour.
That'd be still another album. I just don't see them. There's too many deep-seated issues with going on there. It's just going to eat at them. I can't imagine them making it more. I'd say the next album, which could be the next tour, especially back in the 70s when they're pumping out albums every single year.
Yeah.
I could see one more album and then Russell going on and making his own band, because obviously that's in his forefront. He's grown through the movie, but he's in that process where he wants to move on and wants to do something different.
Certainly. Does Elaine Miller, the mother, ever actually loosen up? I think yes and no. I think you can see her start to let some of her guard down a little bit, but she's still going to be that type A personality. I think that's just part of who she is.
Yeah, I just don't see it. I don't see her ever letting up. Like I said, that little interaction with the daughter, when the daughter's there for a couple of weeks, I mean, that's a couple of weeks. And then the personality issues happen, and I mean, they're not going to be as strange as they were beforehand, where they didn't talk at all.
Right.
But it's definitely like, you're still someone I think is mildly crazy, and I don't want to live with you.
But I think it's still growth from her perspective to allow William to leave the house and go on these grand adventures and do all of these other things. Yes, it is to a degree with that he's just going to get this out of his system, kind of like Rumspringa, and then come back. But I don't know. I could see her eventually settling on that he's not going to become a lawyer.
I could see that too, the not becoming the lawyer part. But it's established in the beginning of the film when she's explained to them that he's actually 11 and not 12.
Yeah.
When she's explaining to them, you can go off and do all these things. Like, she's already put down the seeds that she can allow him to do these things for the simple fact that he is supposedly mature in her eyes than her daughter. So I could see that the fact that she was more willing to let him do things, whereas the daughter, she doesn't want her to do anything. I felt like the control was more for the daughter than the son.
Does William get a full-time job with Rolling Stone?
So are we talking about the character William or actual Cameron Crowe?
Well, we know from Cameron Crowe's story that he does. So you have to assume, but I think it kind of leaves some of that open-ended, whether the fictional character ever does. I have to assume, because that's the way the real story ends, that he does. I mean, he's interviewing Russell at the end, so it's like a continuation on his original article. They eventually publish it, but they don't let you in as to whether he actually becomes a rock journalist.
Yeah, I don't know the rock journalist part, but he's definitely become a journalist just for the simple fact that his article is to cover the Rolling Stone in the 70s. There's going to be people knocking down his doors, especially if it's the barn burner that the movie makes it out to be. Especially that portion there. There's going to be people knocking on his door wanting them to write for them. I don't know if it'd be with Rolling Stone, just for the simple fact that there is an animosity between the editors. I don't think you can definitely tell he doesn't like them. There's only, I think it's just the main editor is the only one he seems to look at as some sort of authority figure. He doesn't seem to like the other ones, but I can't imagine him not being in that field. Maybe not the rock field. Maybe he's a journalist for something different, but I just can't imagine him not being in that field for the simple fact that, I mean, I can't say it's how prestigious. What word did I try to say there? How prestigious it is now as the Rolling Stone, but back then, and I'm like, that's a big newsletter paper to be in, and it's to be your. I mean, I can't imagine not being in that field afterwards.
Any remaining questions for you?
Do you think that her trip to Morocco ends well? Penny Lane, that is.
It's a white blonde woman going to a mostly Muslim country in the 70s. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think it's going to end well.
I can almost guarantee it won't.
I just think it's a pipe dream, but it's exciting. I think it's more of a vacation, but I don't think she could particularly live there. It's a wildly different culture than she's leaving. But we'll see. Maybe they'll be almost famous too. The Morocco experience.
Yeah. Any other remaining questions?
I guess this goes back to the 1974 tour. Does Dolores finally break down?
Who's Dolores?
It's the coach truck. They had a name for it.
Oh, I guess I never realized that the bus had a name.
I think it breaks down because it's definitely beyond its peak years.
A tour bus breaking down, isn't that a little cliche?
Yeah, it is a little cliche, but I can definitely see it breaking down. And then I guess the other question, it's a burning question is going through my head. Does the drummer eventually die?
I won't take that as serious, so we'll stop it there. So, my friend, congratulations on your 5th time being on the show, even though this was one without Dana. So that's kind of an unusual circumstance. But you won't be back again with us this season, and not until we cover The Rock next year. But until then, go ahead and tell people what you're working on and where they can find you.
You can find me on Instagram. I think my handle is Sertle. I have no idea. If you find me on there, like I said, if you find me on there and you actually follow me, I've made this apparent the last couple of times in here. If people actually follow me, and it's because of the movie podcast, I'll actually start posting things on it, evolving around reviewing movies and giving my personal opinions on them. The other thing is going off of this particular theme where we're talking about rock music. Please attend your local music scene, regardless of what scene you like, and like punk, rock, country. Just go to your local music scene, support those artists. I mean, because like they're not all artists like this, like Stillwater, where they're a famous artist. They actually need this particular support from their community. So please go ahead and support them.
And just to clean that up, yes, it is Sertle, Sertle on Instagram. His plugs and various attributions will be both in the show notes and on the website as well if you want to follow him there. Final thoughts for me, nothing much. I wish Dana well. I hope he recovers and he's back with us again next week. I know that there might be an intersplice here because we have, as we announced last week, a big Cinema Legacy poll project that we are on the cusp of revealing to you all. And so part of the reveal will be embedded in this episode. I know that this is at the end, and so this kind of seems weird how I'm talking about it now, but it will also seem weird where Dana somehow is in the middle of the episode all of a sudden, and then, whatever, because he was sick. But since we're going to hopefully record that a little later this week, once we've gotten all the submissions in from your favorite Cine podcasters across our different movie universe among us, I think we don't have all of that quite ready for you to go as I'm recording this, so that will be interspliced probably at the end of this for you, and we'll go from there. That'll be the first reveal of what's on the actual full list and how long the list is, because right now we're not even sure where we're going to stop or cap the list exactly yet. I think the idea originally was that we were going to do 100, but I don't want to limit ourselves by whatever scores, and maybe there'll be some great little inclusions if we go to 125 instead of 100. So we are still sorting through some of that yet, but definitely stay tuned as we release these all. And again, this will be leading up to Christmas Eve, which is the last episode of our season and our year, as our seasons are always just based on the calendar year. And that will be the reveal of the number one film of all time, according to all of your favorite podcasters. We're very excited to bring this all to you as part of this. So definitely stay tuned for all of that. But otherwise, that'll do it for us this week. Thank you for listening.
Lock the gates.
We would have been all right if there hadn't been any mess. But you can't handle mess. Next week for our 279th episode, we welcome back Frank Mendoza of Reels of Cinema and Movies Across the Pod to discuss Ordinary People from 1980, celebrating its 45th anniversary. Directed by Robert Redford, written by Alvin Sargent, cinematography by John Bailey, music by Marvin Hamlish, starring Donald Sutherland, Mary Tyler Moore, Judd Hirsch, and Timothy Hutton. You won't want to miss that one, so watch ahead of the show by searching the Real Good app to find where it's streaming for you. That's REELGOOD. Please like, follow, rate, and review, or whatever on whichever platform you have so that more can join in our fun. You can also email the show at RonnieDuncanStudios.com or at GreatestAllTimeMoviePodcast@gmail.com, or find us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Letterboxd, TikTok, or Blue Sky at the handle @GMoPodcast. Greatest Movie of All Time is a production of Ronnie Duncan Studios. Our show is mixed, edited, and written by Thomas Duncan. Our music is thanks to Purple Planet Music. Our distributor is Captivate FM. Our technical provider is Riverside FM. Welcome back, my friends, to the show that never ends. Come inside, come inside. It is time to start revealing the Cinema Legacy poll. And because you were sick earlier this week, Pop, we are here back again as kind of a epilogue or an add-on to our episode this week to reveal the first, I guess it's technically 12, but 10 items on our list of the official CLP rankings. So we had, as you decided, we went to 120 plus ties. So technically there will be 122 films recognized for this project. Again, we did not have everybody on the announcement when we made it last week, and that was revealed, everyone that was participating in the polls. So I would just like to quickly share all of our participants who at least requested or allowed us to be named here now. So first off, obviously, both you and I submitted lists for this project. We also had significant help as far as organization and help in the tabulation, other things of this project from three primary people: Andrew Corns, Heather Stewart, Sarah Shea. I specifically tried to thank them in just about every communication going forward for everything that they did for this project and helping us with deciding the logo and whatever. This was very much a community effort. So other people that we would like to recognize here that submitted lists as well: Peterson W. Hill, frequent guest of the show; Pierre Dupont. I know I probably butchered that, Pierre. I sincerely apologize. I can't pronounce French very well. It's just I'm an Anglo-Saxon American. It just, I try. Another frequent guest of ours, Jailan Salah Salman. We also had Kristen Battistella, both of In Session Film. Amanda Netherington over at Oscar Upsets. Aisha Khan of Every Sci-Fi Film. Ryan Luis Rodriguez of the One Track Mind podcast. Brian Scuttle of the Sonic Cinema podcast. Damon Carter of the Never Ending Watch List. We have Frank Mendoza from Reels of Cinema and Movies Across the Pod, who's been a frequent guest of ours. Morgan Phillips Pete of Hall of Film over on YouTube. We had Frankie Sparks and Scott Eisenberg, one-time guest, going to be on again with us next year from Shoot the Flick. We had Adam Freed, multiple-time guest on the show from Movie Archer, who also contributed. We had Chase Skaken over at Real Rate on Instagram and Twitter. We had Ralph Esparza, who's been on the show a couple of times now to this point, and he'll be back again for Heat in the fall, so he'll be helping us reveal the list as we go later on. William Holland from the Morally Offensive podcast. Sorry, that one just caught me right as I was reading it here. Joey R. from the BPC and 1001 by 1. Sarah Callan and Jen Hahn of Movies and Us, who have been contributors to our show. We were also on their show for the Jaws episode that they did a few months back. They will be on with us later in the fall to help cover Raging Bull, of all things. Scott Cole, who's been on the show twice to this point and will also be back with us to cover Clute next year. We had Clarissa Beckstead, who's been on the show a couple of times and will be back with us again next year as well. I think she's also going to be on in the fall for us with Revisiting Psycho, if I remember correctly. Brandon Davis over at Front Row Classics Pod. Brendan Cassidy as well. I believe he's also from In Session Film. Joe Bucari, who has been a multiple-time guest on the show and will be back again with us next year as well. Charles Goodrich of Silence to Talkies. Betsy and Trent Gorham of Never Seen It Pod. Chauncey Talese. Darren Lundberg. Finally, we get to a couple of other names that you should be at least a little familiar with if you're part of our general film community. That'd be Grant Z and Kieran B from the BPC, as well as Adam St. John from 1001 by 1. Adam will be on with us here pretty soon. I think it's going to be early next year. I can't remember. I think it's Invasion of the Body Snatchers. He's going to be on with us early next spring sometime, if I remember correctly. And Kieran will be back with us to cover yet another Billy Wilder classic and another Best Picture winner with The Lost Weekend here in November. So we wanted to thank all of you for all of your contributions, submitting lists for this that covers the wide breadth of a lot of different shows and communities. And certainly this is not a one-off project. This is just the initial start. We will be updating this periodically. We're not sure exactly what the interval will be in between when we do updates to this particular list. But in the interim, we'll probably have either a genre-specific or maybe like a decade-specific list that we'll have people contributing towards. So things like that will be yet to come. But with that, before we get any further, we will reveal the first 10 in our list of the CLP. So first up here, we have a tie at 120 between three films. Reservoir Dogs, a film that we've covered on our show, from 1992, the Quentin Tarantino film. We had King Kong, the original King Kong from 1933, and Jackie Brown from 1997, also a Quentin Tarantino film. Then at 119, we have The Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring from 2001. At 118, we had The Treasure of the Sierra Madre from 1948. At 117, we have the Akira Kurosawa classic High and Low from 1963. Then at 115, and no, that is not a mistake, we had a tie. So whenever you have a tie, you skip over one of the numbers. Therefore, so there will be 2 at 115 and none at 116. In this particular case, we had 2 films that tied at 115. Train to Busan from 2016 and Wings, the original Best Production or Best Overall Production from 1928 of the Oscars. That film came out in 1927. At 114, a film we covered earlier this season, that would be Nashville from 1975. At 113, we had Arrival from 2016, which is the Denis Villeneuve film from about a decade ago, which I think, personally, might be one of the best sci-fi films of the century. Sherlock Jr., the Buster Keaton film from 1924 at 112, and for Cabaret at 111 from 1972, the runner-up to The Godfather and what won a ton of awards during that award season over The Godfather, the musical. So, initial reactions to the list as we've revealed so far, the first, I guess technically 12, but 10 spots on our list.
Well, it's a wide range of films. We have, I believe, 3 foreign films in that list.
So high and low. I don't know about Train to Busan. I'm not familiar with it. Nothing else there is really foreign language per se. However, they're made by non-Americans. So like The Lord of the Rings was made by Peter Jackson. So I don't know, but that's kind of an Americanized production. You have 2 different Quentin Tarantino films, both tied at 120 in Reservoir Dogs and Jackie Brown. So
1 silent film, 2 very early films.
Actually, 2 silent films. You got the Buster Keaton Sherlock Jr. from 1924 and Wings from 1927.
Okay, Wings was silent. That was a Howard Hughes production where he really got his start in movies.
Correct.
So, plus we have the infamous King Kong, produced by Joseph P. Kennedy, President Kennedy's father, who put his girlfriend or mistress in it, Fay Wray.
So we had 2 films in here from the 20s. We had 1 film from the 30s, 1 from the 40s, none from the 50s, 1 from the 60s, 2 from the 70s, none from the 80s, 2 from the 90s, 1 from the aughts, and 1 from the 2010s. So we covered a pretty wide range in these 12 films.
Well, it's good because how many lists are going to have that wide variety in a span of 12 films?
Well, I think one of the criticisms we had and why we even started this project is that there are film lists that have a wide variety, but I don't think cover nearly as popular of all of these films. So something like Sight and Sound, I know will have a diversity list, and that's part of what makes Sight and Sound kind of different from most of the other lists like Letterboxd or the AFI, where they're more popular names per se, not necessarily popular films, but more popular names that people have heard of. This is a lot of names that I'm sure a lot of people have heard of, or at least, have come in contact with if you're a fan of film. But maybe there are some films in here that people haven't seen, even though there's some name recognition here. I mean, we're covering a lot of different stars. We've got Bogart, we've got Buster Keaton, as I mentioned, so, I mean, there's a lot of different people, directors covered in here that I think people are very familiar with.
Yes. 2 Tarantino films within that span. I mean, it was nice to see Reservoir Dogs in there, which I think is one of Tarantino's best because it's his first real film. And I think it's the more raw and powerful of the films. I actually like it better than Pulp Fiction.
I would tend to agree. I've always said that I thought Reservoir Dogs was a little bit better story for me as far as the narrative version and kind of how the ending comes about. I've only seen Jackie Brown once. I am still kind of wrestling with it. I think it's a film that you need to watch multiple times to truly appreciate, but the people that are huge Jackie Brown fans like really get into that film, are huge defenders of it. So I'm not that surprised to see that here. If you're going to nominate Tarantino films, I have no issue with the other 2 of these coming up so far.
Sure. I understand, and I have never seen Jackie Brown. I'll admit that. So that is a gaping hole in my filmography, but
Okay. Well, actually, that might be an interesting exercise here, just quickly before we wrap up. How many of these films have you or have you not seen? So I have seen Reservoir Dogs. I've
Same.
seen King Kong, the original.
I've only seen pieces of it.
Okay. I actually think it holds up pretty well, all things considered, for as old as it is, for the production design and the visual effects and such. A little bit better than you might think. Jackie Brown, I've seen.
Have
You
not.
just said you hadn't. Lord of the Rings, The Fellowship of the Ring. You have actually seen it. I don't know if you
Yes.
remember it, though.
Not very well. I had a hard time understanding or following it.
And we will be covering that next winter in December.
Yes.
We will be covering all 3 of the Lord of the Rings films at that time. Now, 118, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, we've covered it on the show.
Yes.
No need to go into it there. You and I watched High and Low, I think, last summer.
Yes.
So we both gotten that one in. I have not seen Train to Busan.
No. The name is very familiar. Like, I may have either seen it at some point or at least seen part of it. I don't know why, but I'm having a difficult time remembering anything about it.
Okay. I have seen Wings, but I don't believe you have.
No, I have not.
It's also been quite a while since I watched Wings. I want to say it's probably edging on 8 to 10 years, somewhere in that range. We just covered Nashville earlier this year, so I know
Yes.
you've seen that. I have definitely seen Arrival, but it's been a while. I don't think you ever have.
No.
It's not your kind of movie normally. I
No.
think I put it on the list for us to cover next year, though.
Okay.
And I have not seen Sherlock Jr.
No.
No? Okay. So that might be one, because I've always been a preferrer of Buster Keaton to Charlie Chaplin, just personally. I like Keaton's affability, and I don't know, he just appeals to me more than Chaplin does.
Okay.
And then finally, Cabaret. Have you actually seen it?
No, I have not.
Okay. I have. It's one of the few musicals where I was kind of turned off by it, to be quite honest.
Okay.
So I don't think it's coming up for us, but it would be potentially on the ability to be nominated, along with Jackie Brown, for our, and I guess Wings, technically, for our, not this coming season, but the season after that we're going to start planning here in the next few months.
Okay.
So,
Well, I guess we'll have to put that into consideration.
all right. Anything else that you want to add quickly before we wrap up for the week?
No, I'm looking forward to the next 10. So I think so far this list is solid. And again, I would also reiterate your comments that we thank everybody who has been so instrumental in helping us with this process and this project. But we're hoping that this creates some conversation and some interest in some of these movies among the fans and the people out there who are listening to our podcast and all the other fellow podcasters.
So again, this was a community project. It's a community effort. I know that technically, since we're releasing it on the Greatest Movie of All Time podcast, it is a little bit more closely associated here, but this was certainly not done because of us. This was done with us. And so,
Yes.
Again, just thank you to everybody who contributed so far, everybody who's going to be listening and watching and sharing, and all the other stuff that's going to be going on for the next few months as we kind of count down from 120 plus ties to number 1. The final 2 films on our list will be revealed on our last episode of the season, which comes out on Christmas Eve, which will be our Promising Young Woman episode that we have planned. And at that point, everything else will have been shared. So we will eventually have a full list of everything from the Cinema Legacy poll up on our website. So that'll be RonnieDuncanStudios.com/GMOTE podcast for you to find there. And certainly during this entire course, we're going to have a lot of different content and stuff. So please follow us over at GMOTE podcast if you can. We will be tagging a lot of your favorite Cine podcasters as well that were part of this project. So they will be helping to share all of the information with you. And once we get to a final list, please help us celebrate all of the work that went into this by everyone involved. So thank you thank you for this first set here. We will see you again next week as we reveal 110 to 101. So we're not quite going to get into the first or the top 100 quite yet, but we have some very interesting names to bring you as well next week.